I am ready.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk About It. We are here with Gabby Smith with Gabbe Smith Consulting Group, and I'm real excited. I've known Gabby now, oh my gosh, I don't want to date ourselves, but they say 20 plus years actually, when I really think about it. Oh my God. Um, and I'm excited to have her here because as we've been doing in a series, we've been talking to different experts about their particular areas of expertise. And she's going to talk to you a lot about executive coaching and dive a little bit more deeper into it today. So before we jump in, I'm going to ask her to share just a little bit about who she is, and then we'll jump into our interview today. Gabby, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I love podcasts and I always love anything that you do. You always bring such a great touch to everything that you do.
Oh, thank you.
So Gabby Smith, who is Gabby Smith? Gabby Smith, I am, traditional answer, founder and CEO of Gabby Smith Consulting Group. I think I'll tell you how I got started, and that will speak to who I am in a sense. So most people that have interacted with me business wise, that kind of thing, they know I oftentimes refer to myself as an accidental entrepreneur, which I don't believe in accidents. Okay, but I just say that, accidental entrepreneur because I wasn't pursuing a path to be an entrepreneur. So at the time, I was in higher ed. I had doing a number of different things like that. And I I ended up being on this speaker circuit and doing workshops and things like that. And I've always seen speaking in workshops as an extension of
Yeah.
teaching. I just do. I don't think about it any other way. It's a translation of information, and that part of me that loves not just information but knowledge and wisdom.
Yeah.
What that does is that I just speak and I train in such a way not to just get the information out. I want there to be an impact and I want there to be a connection.
Mhm.
And in a perfect world, I want that information to bring about not just inspiration, but transformation for
Mhm.
in whatever way it needs to for that person. So if it's 50 people in a room, it might be 50 different, it might look 50 different ways. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's one. So in the process of going about, speaking to different, groups, I always say one of my favorite ones is the National Funeral Directors, whomever it is. As I went in to talk about topics that were given to me, speak to work groups, do workshops, all kind of different things, 10 times out of 10, as I am preparing to leave,
Mhm.
the leader or the executive of this particular group, project manager, whomever it was, it always ended one of two ways. Hey, can I run something by you?
Yeah.
Or, hey, you got a minute?
Mhm.
Which most of the time led to missed flights, me having to push appointments afterwards because that minute turned into a session with the person that brought me there to work with their group. It turned into a session where I was working with them. I can remember a broom closet even once, going through a minute of having something run by me. So after a series of that, the first thing I started to do was I stopped booking flights or whatever it was, even within an hour or two after a particular thing, because 10 times out of 10, I was going to be asked to have my brain picked or something else. So from that, after a while, I just noticed a trend that even though most leaders and executives, they were so well meaning and trying to get something for their group, but I noticed that it was oftentimes at the expense of what they needed. And that is actually how the consulting group took shape, but more than anything, that service of the executive coaching or whatever it needed to be called. It doesn't matter to me what it's called, but more often than not, it was a process and a relationship of executive coaching where I'm dealing confidentially with whatever the matter is with this leader. So that's how that started. And I hope that speaks to who I am, because that was just very important to me. That was very important.
It does. It does. It definitely speaks to who you are. And you said something interesting at the end when you said, it doesn't matter what you call it. But I know people get really hung up or not or confused often of what is executive coaching, what is counseling, what is regular coaching. There's so many different terminologies out there today.
Right.
What would you say if someone's like, okay, I'm an executive, so is it counseling, coaching? What exactly is it? And what is the differences between them?
So this is my definition. Okay.
Mhm.
So even though I have training in my background is psychology. I don't do therapy with individuals.
Mhm.
Um, I'm not a licensed counselor. I don't engage in any of that. So to me, counseling in just the general sense, it is a therapeutic type relationship with an individual
Mhm.
um, that typically stems from personal matters.
Mhm.
Okay, it
Mhm.
could be a feeling, it could be an event, or what have you. But typically, it starts off. We know it's personal, and personal might be your family. Hey, I'm having an issue with my kids, or whatever the case is. Okay, but typically it's personal. Even if the person is professional, it's
Mhm.
personal.
Mhm.
With coaching, it's typically general coaching. It is typically a matter that we are needing to address. And whatever spins from that, and
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, there's going to be some personal stuff mixed in there, but it starts out as a matter that we spin, untangle, and everything else, and then we address that core issue. I would also say with coaching as well, this is my this is the this is my belief, and this is how I work through this. Oftentimes in coaching, when there are some personal matters that will come up that would go beyond the scope of what a coaching relationship needs
Mhm.
to be, to me, a part of that coaching process is a connection or a referencing to a
Mhm.
counselor for
Mm.
that particular matter.
Mhm.
Now we layer on one more,
Yeah.
which is executive coaching. Typically, with executive coaching, the matter is connected to the organization or the project or whatever that person is connected to. And typically, with the executive coaching, it's typically a leader of somehow. They're either business owner, business leader. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
even just a project leader or what have you. And so from there, what that relationship would look like is that, again, there's a matter that's now
Mhm.
not just connected to a thing, it's connected to a thing, a place, some other
Yeah.
individuals, and all of the above. And it is more than anything for me and the way that I operate,
Mhm.
it is creating a space
Mhm.
to unpack that, to see what all of that looks like.
Right.
So
Makes
that
sense.
that's how I would break it down.
We broke it down very well.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Well, you always do. You have a great way of always breaking down information that can be confusing and make it sound very simplified. So I love that.
Well, good, good, good.
So let me ask you this, because we're going to jump into a couple of core questions, because I want to make sure that people not just understand what the differences are, but they also can understand more of why what you do is so needed, especially in today's time with everything going on and so much competing with our physical, mental health. There's all type of things that are fluctuating around us. So what would you say are some blocks that you see that our leaders, executives, and sometimes it can be just everyday people, period, are facing as they're leading, whether personally in their lives or leading professionally in their lives in this new economy? What are some blocks that you're seeing with today's climate, with our leaders and stuff?
That's a really good question. And one of the things that there are a couple of things that I see, and they are pretty. They're of course they're related, but the major thing for me that I have seen in and out, particularly since the onset of the pandemic and how things have shifted and shaped. And if you don't notice the shift, the reshape, whatever the case is, that's problem number that's
Yeah,
problem number one.
yeah, yeah,
I mean, it's amoral. It's neither evil or divine. It's neither one of those things. It's a shift. It's a reshaping. Period.
yeah.
Period. So the major thing that I see is that it's the mindset.
Mhm.
It's that mindset
Yeah.
of the leaders. And so this is what I mean. Just to unpack that a little bit. One of the major barriers is that being a leader, it comes with a set. I would
Mhm.
it's almost like, okay, here's a script, okay, and here you go.
Yeah.
This is what being a leader means.
Mhm.
So oftentimes being a leader, when you're a leader, the thought is that you have to have all the answers, or you
Right.
should have all the answers. Okay, that's false, and my that's false. The other thing is that whatever has brought you to where you are in that position,
Mhm.
there's something that you've done that worked. It worked.
Mhm.
Okay,
Mhm.
so typically it's just human nature. When something
Yeah.
works, you just keep doing more of it.
Yes.
You just keep going with it. You keep going with it. So anytime you have a shift or an impact or something that would shift the trajectory of the norm, that's what we're going to call it, just the norm.
Mhm.
Anytime you have that, it wins you.
Mhm.
It kind of blows the wind,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
still in the back of your head, something has changed, but that there's responsibility, there's accountability to
Yeah.
people, places, and things, as I call it, depending on your industry and all of
Yeah.
those things. So if the thought is that, okay, I should know this, or I know these things, or I'm the leader, I'm in charge, what, blah, 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 blah,
Mhm.
all the other things that come, you don't take a moment to gather your wits, as I call it.
Mhm.
Usually, when there's an impact, usually in the animal kingdom, the animal will shake,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
bring about some equilibrium. We as humans, we often
Mhm.
don't do that. We just forge ahead faster,
Yeah.
harder, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it is typically that mindset that is telling us you keep going. Even what I
Mhm.
mentioned earlier, no, you just keep taking care of them. You take care of your people. You do this. You make sure this is provided. You still got to hit this
Mhm.
deadline. All of these different things.
Yeah.
And so what happens is it keeps that person from even realizing that, hey, something is different, or I need to pivot, or whatever the case is. That's
Mhm.
number one.
Mhm.
So in a sense, I would say it's just not giving yourself that time and space to course correct or what have you. And not to paint a light picture, because I've worked in environments of production and things like that. And in all honesty, the clock does not get cut off. So unless you have like this incredible superpower,
Mhm.
unless you have this incredible superpower to like change your outfits midair,
I wish.
you just don't, you just kind of, you have to keep going with it.
Yeah.
Just kind of have
Yeah.
to keep going with it. So that's the one thing, that mindset that I should know, and that if I don't know, I cannot not know.
Yeah.
And I got to keep going. I got to
Yeah.
keep going. So that's the one thing. The other thing that I have seen, I have heard this more and seen it more in the past almost 24 months
Mm-hmm.
than ever before. I mean, you can go online, you can Google it, everything else. Now, with my background, it was a term, I mean, it's a term that I've seen, I've known, that kind of thing. But now it's just like general conversation. Hey Kim,
Yeah.
what kind of coffee you want? It's like that. And the term is imposter syndrome.
Mm.
I
Yeah.
see and hear more
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
saying that they're
Mhm.
really trying to deal with that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
this imposter syndrome. And the reason that I bring that up is because it goes back again. Here you go, Kim. This is how you be a leader. This is what you should
Mhm.
know, believe, and think. So part of that on that is that oftentimes we believe, or the thought is that person is fully confident in
Mhm.
his or her abilities, all of these other things.
Yeah.
And that's just what it is.
Mhm.
So most of the time, nobody's going to let on to it.
Yeah.
You don't know that a person doesn't believe that they really don't belong there. They worked for it, they got the degree and everything. I mean, they did all the steps that they needed. But when it comes to the core of who they are,
Yeah.
they don't quite believe that they belong there, or they feel that they're going to be found out. And that's pre-pandemic.
Mhm.
That's like when the sun is shining, the birds are singing, everything is just in perfect alignment.
Yeah.
They're dealing with that feeling.
Mhm.
So when you have something that hits
Yes.
and it knocks the front, the back, the top,
Everything.
it knocks all of
Yeah.
the grips and securities away from you, that's even more prevalent. But guess
Yeah.
what? I
Yeah.
can't tell anybody.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
from that, then comes that 3 through 10 stuff. There's the anxiety, there's all of those other things that are teased out in that. I can't
Mhm.
sleep, and now I'm principal. I got these little people at the house. I got to be the vet. I got to be all these other things. And so it's just a compounding
Yeah.
of all
Yeah.
those things that you had neatly tucked away.
Yeah.
So again, and again, if you roll everything back up, it
Mhm.
goes back to the mindset of what a leader is
Yeah.
not, and how I have to be. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It does. No, thank you for that. And yeah, I'm gonna leave it just there. It leads into my next question actually. Like, based off of everything you said, I know that you often say this, that we have to reshift our definition of success, because with everything that we're dealing with our economy and all the different roles we have to play and new things we're having to adapt to and adjust to, it also does shift some of our thinking and some of our perceptions that we had before. So I
Right.
know people in the space that you work with a lot deal with definitions or various perspectives around success. So what would you say about that, like about the reshifting of the definition for today?
Uh, I would say reshifting that definition. Uh, One is that it cannot be something that is static. It
Yeah.
has to be
Yeah.
something that is dynamic and fluid.
Hmm.
And that's not a cop out. And I say this because I'm hearing clients, I'm hearing them as I
Hmm.
say this, like, again, you're
Yeah.
fighting against that mindset. But but realize that it has to be dynamic. So going back to something that I said before. So in some industries, uh, success
Hmm.
looks different on different days. So we can go to like first responders. We can use
Hmm.
something like that. So typically, first responders know you got to have some good sleep in. You got to have your Wheaties. You got to have everything you need from Friday to Monday, because
Yeah.
it just kind of pops off. We know we're going to be busy.
Yeah.
So success on Friday might be to get through the night.
Yeah. Yeah.
We just want to get through the night intact.
Yeah.
Saturday, we want to not have as many of these calls as we usually do. That
Yeah.
and that's something so simple, but it's very relative.
Yes.
So adopting, first of all, adopting that dynamic definition of success. One is you probably want to revisit this thing here, whatever this is. You probably want to revisit that. Okay,
Yeah.
it was probably a lie to begin with. It just worked.
Mhm.
It just kind of worked. Okay, so I would say first of all, look at how you're defining success. One, I specifically want to say this to leaders, and those that have oversight and charge of people, places, and things. That's my thing, people, places, and things. You probably want to move yourself out of that equation a little bit more, because
Mhm.
oftentimes I think leaders put too much weight on themselves and don't quite understand that it's a shared
Mhm.
process, it's a shared success,
Yeah.
that kind of thing. And I know all the adages. I know all the adages. Trust me, you're not doing it by yourself.
Yeah.
Um, but reshaping the very definition, taking that definition day by day. On this day, this is what success would look like. Sometimes, I would also say when it comes to success, I'm a fan of failure. I
Mhm.
think that I think that one of the biggest things that we can do to shape shift and reshape our definition of success is actually get into a better relationship of what seems to be failure.
Yeah.
Oftentimes, perfection is thought of as success, and if it's not perfect, it's some kind of failure. And
Mhm.
going back, you've heard me say this before. Going back to my days in higher ed,
Yeah.
I would have those students. I mean, they will walk me all the way down the hall into my office, and they want to hold me up for 30 minutes
Yep.
because they got a 94 and not a 98. And
I remember.
I
I
felt like
remember those days.
I felt like it was my purpose in life to break you from that mindset. So I was flat-footed about it. I knew that my
Mhm.
grading was fair. I became flat-footed about it. But it goes back to I'm using that example to say that perfection is not success. It is not. And imperfection is not failure. So that would be the next thing. I would redefine my relationship and get acquainted with what I see, whoever it is, as failure. Because more often than not, failure can be your friend. I love the quote. I believe it's Henry Ford. He said, "Failure is not failure, but it's the opportunity to begin again intelligently." And I love that intelligently part. It means that you now have new intel. You have new intel to add into the equation to see what you get the next time. And I
Mhm.
and I can already hear, I hear them haunting me. But Gabby, we have to answer to people, and hey, no, we got to have this done by this time, or we got to meet this goal and this goal and this, all of that. I get it. I get that. I get that. But one of the things that we have learned is that through all of this, is that even when it's not, life pretty much goes on. And so I'm not saying to ignore all of those things, but I am saying that what goes into building that goal, what goes into achieving it, that needs to be redefined. I would look at those elements. So I'm attempting to be generally specific, but I hope the point is that you need to look at what those things are. I'll also add this, um, because I use my script, whatever
Mhm.
you use. Most people think that a belief is something great. And that's going to sound so crazy in so many ways, but this is what I mean. This is what I mean. People oftentimes believe that if they believe something, it's greater than a thought or an idea. But a belief is a thought that you just tell yourself over and over. The thought can start off as a lie, but you can just think it over and over and over. It becomes your truth. And so that's why I'm saying, go back to the elements of what you believe got you where you are, what you believe is bringing you the success. Go back and do an examination of those elements and see if there is a place to do some moderation, I'm sorry, not moderation, modification. See if there's a place for that. And I strongly believe, because I think over and over, I believe that you'll find different ways to be successful.
That was good.
Does that address it?
You answered it and then
Okay.
some. So I think that was really good, because I think at the end of the day, and the reason why I wanted to ask that question is because whenever you're dealing with leaders, executives, etc., success is always a part of the conversation, no matter what that looks like, and in different ways. And I know there's been reshifted so much with all the different things that is happening in our changing economy and environments. And I know that even with that carries its own set of pressures, its own set of thought process, its own set of patterns that often we need to break, reshift, review, do all the different reads around it to really make sure that we're leading in a way that's healthy and productive. Right. So let me ask you this. There's one more question, and then I want you to share a little bit how someone can reach you. Actually not a question. What are your closing thoughts to that executive that's looking at this leader that's saying that I have patterns that I know that are not helping me be productive in the workplace, and that's spilling over into my personal life? Or maybe you have that executive that just feels like they have to lead and be and do because that's what they've been accustomed to, or the expectations been placed on them. What would you speak to that person about, combined with the work that you do, and how to kind of break that up and lead and build in a more healthy pattern and way?
Right. The first thing that I would say is, and this is very dear to me. It really is. This is very dear. And the reason that I say this is that I don't like to see people suffer. And more than anything, I don't like to see people in anguish. Yeah. And right now, I want to talk to the person. I don't want to talk to the person as they are going into the office. I don't want to talk to the person as they are moving and shaking and doing all the stuff that they do, as defined by whatever role, industry, business, whatever. I don't want to talk to that person. Yeah. I want to talk to the person. I want to talk to the person that is ending the day and that's in the car by themselves heading home. I want to speak to that person. And this is what I would say is that, one, stop trying to do everything yourself. That's one. Two, you cannot do it by yourself. Yeah. Three, you're not doing as good as you think you are. Yeah. And I can say that because I have been that person many times. You are not doing as well as you think you are. And more than anything, number four, you deserve some help. Yeah. You deserve some help. And this is what I would like for that person to know. One of the things that people like me, what I do and people like me, I do it best, of course. But
of course.
Of course. But one of the things that this is what I want to say is that the primary role for me is to create a space for a leader. Because oftentimes, and that's why I say I want to talk to the person on the way home, Because when you're going to work, you know, you letting everything go that's yours, because you know once you get there, you are not your own. Okay. And that happens on the way home too, but at least people will let them get 2 hours of sleep. Don't bother them. Okay. At least you get that courtesy. Okay. But the reason that I say that, my primary goal starting out is to create a space. Some people would call it a safe space. I would take it a step further. I want that person to have a sacred space. I want them to have a sacred space, something that is there. They know it's there, and it's gonna be just like this every time. Oftentimes, when you are so immersed in others' stuff, you don't even have an inventory of your own. And depending on the environment, it's not even safe to look at your own stuff. You're trying to find a closet or something just to look in your own bag. My goal is to create a space. You can just come in and dump the bag out if you want to, or slowly pull items out. I'm okay either way. But the primary goal is that space for you, to give that person the opportunity that they often give others. And one thing that I will say, it is such a lie. First of all, when people say work-life balance, that is such a load of something. I don't even know what to call it anymore. We don't, believing that you can become different people, that starts bordering on another kind of, that starts bordering on another science, okay? When you splitting and go, that's bordering on something else. But coming in and giving yourself the opportunity, the space, sometimes the gentleness that you give others, allow yourself to have that, and just to explore. I always look at it as an exploration. And that's one of the reasons that I love the position that I take. Like I say, it's a coaching. I specifically want to coach. I'm not gonna take on that role of a counselor, because that's another sacred relationship. I love some counseling. That's another sacred relationship. But oftentimes it takes that place to unpack, unearth, whatever the case is, before you can even get to that point. And so that's what I would tell that person. I don't want that to get lost, is allow yourself to have what you are willing to give others, period. So that's what I would say to that.
No, I appreciate that. And how can they get in contact with you?
GabbeSmith.com.
Love it. Very simple. Well, Gabby, I appreciate your time today. I honestly do. I always love talking to you, that. And I just feel like what you offer is such great value to people that just need a safe, and I would even say sacred space, to just kind of take off all the different things, that the labels that they're wearing, all the masks that they have on, and be able to really deal with the stuff that's underneath it, because they can only emerge much more healthier and much more confident, and stepping into, like, new skin, if you will. And I feel like you do that for a lot of people. You have, since the 20 years I've known you, constantly help people step back into, where they really need to be, in a place that's safe for them, and they can lead much more healthy, in a healthier way, I should say. So thank you for sharing everything that you shared today. So I appreciate your time.
Oh, most definitely. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Well, everyone, tune in. I'll put your stuff up on the show notes. And again, I appreciate your time, and you have a wonderful day.
You too.
All right.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
Kim. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.